Back in 2018, the state of Michigan legalized recreational marijuana. Woo! And here in Monroe, a string of dispensaries off I-75 has come to be known as the Green Mile. Though if I were naming a cannabis district after a Tom Hanks movie, I think I'd go with Forest Hemp, or the Dank Vinci Code, or maybe Catch Me If You Cannabis, or possibly Toke Story, A Weed of Their Own, Smoking Private Resin, Larry Chronic, Joe versus the Vaporizer, Burner and Hooch, Turner and Hash, You've Pot Mail, The Munchie Pit, A Bluntiful Day Indica Neighborhood, Stash, That Thing You Do, parentheses, smoke weed, Grassed Away, The Bong Fire of the Vanities, or just Cloud Atlas. Ever been to the Green Mile, Jack?
I have not.
You've not been there?
But I like for Splash, you could do hash or stash. That's kind of, you have two choices.
You could. Too late now, sadly. In January of 2019, you got to say these things earlier, like saying that during rehearsal would have been better because then we could have had it.
Right.
Okay. At this point, it just seems like criticism.
TBTL.
Oh, sweetie, you got a little Mars cocktail in your beautiful gray dress there. Can we get that for free?
What?
The Mars cocktail, can we get one of those for free? Because she spilled a little bit on her dress.
Sure.
Great, because if you said no, I would have gone home and got on Yelp and said that I found a Lego head in my corner. I've done that to a lot of places. It works.
My hobbies include leaving mean, unsolicited comments on internet videos and rushing to be the first one off the plane, even if I'm in the back.
The comedy factor speaks for itself. It's just painfully obvious.
Yeah.
Well, it's an unfulfilled prophecy. It just has to be played out.
I tell you, two go-go 80s Reaganauts like us, we could rule this world.
All right, hello, good morning, and welcome everyone to a Monday edition of TBTL, the show that just might be too beautiful to live.
It is our turn.
My name's Luke Burbank. I'm your host.
I'm sorry, I'm tan. I like to be tan. It just feels good.
Coming to you from the Madrona Hills studio, perched high above the mighty Columbia here on this Memorial Day. Yes, that's right, folks. We are bringing you a brand new episode, even though it's a holiday.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
And I'm battling through some serious allergies as well, like majorly. So we may keep things on the shorter side today. I'm not sure, but I can tell you that it's going to be a fun time because we've made it to episode 4,734 in a collector series.
Let the fun begin.
Oh, and we've got an update.
Can you verify? Can you give me some 411?
An update on the TBTL Junior Sluggers.
Kids and fantasy.
And how they're doing in the playoffs of the Little League that they are in. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Stephen Colbert's quick return to the television airwaves. I believe he was off the air less than 24 hours, maybe. And we'll say hi to this guy, longest-running co-bro of the show, maybe best known for his depictions of the tall ships. He's asked that from now on, I guess we refer to him just as
Targus.
So here he is. Targus is joining us. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Luke. I gotta think of a more permanent solution to these little cracks that keep on appearing around my thumbnail, sort of. I think it's
Is it Digger the Dermatophyte?
No, it's kind of the opposite of that. It's not like something that is like kind of gross and growing in there.
It's Climber the Climatophyte?
It's that would be the opposite, wouldn't it? I kind of regret saying that now. No, I think it's because I'm washing my hands too much. I think what's going on here is I do a lot of dishes. But I do even more dishes these days. I feel like, because I don't know, like puppy-related stuff, cleaning out like frozen yogurt things. I know you call it puppy ice cream, and also just washing my hands a lot because I think I'm picking up gross stuff a lot, and I think it's just drying the hell out of my hands. I got this cuticle butter from was it Burt's Bees that a listener recommended, and I like the way it smells, but it's not really doing much. And I gotta say, it's getting so painful. I just got a tiny little split right to the right of my thumbnail and the skin there, and everything I do just sort of hurts. It's just like one of those little irritants of life. I think it goes back to original sin somehow.
Yes.
I think this has to do with the Garden of Eden and a serpent.
Well, I've got allergies. Your thumb is about to fall off, and it's Memorial Day.
Exactly.
So we're really playing hurt here on this Monday.
Yeah. I'm withholding. I told you before the show, like, there are things I'm not talking about. I figured I could just kind of dispense of the cracked finger talk pretty quickly, but I'm not going to get into
Nice.
how I ended up at a death metal show on Saturday night accidentally, but maybe we can talk about that later in the week. I want to keep this a short Memorial Day weekend. You and I entered into a covenant on Friday saying we're going to keep it short, and so we are
sacred agreement.
a bond, exactly.
So yeah, we'll keep it. We'll try to keep it relatively tight today, which usually means we go about 3 hours or
Three,
so.
you keep it under 3, yeah.
But let me just give you a little update here.
Nice.
On how your jalapenos, also known as the TBTL Junior Sluggers, did as they entered the playoffs last Thursday. This is from Coach Ben. They were at Wilshire Park, and apparently the Sluggers decided, Andrew, subtlety was overrated. Facing the Wilshire Riverside Knights, the Jalapenos put together one of their most complete games of the season. Big bats, sharp pitching, aggressive base running, and absolute lockdown defense. I see they took absolutely nothing away from yesterday's Seattle Mariners performance.
Literally, in this case, I stand by it, literally the opposite of the baseball that I experienced as a Mariners fan this weekend.
Yes, indeedy. Thank God the Sluggers are finally getting it together as the Mariners are crumbling all around us. Coach Ben says, let's not bury the lead. The final score, Andrew, Jalapenos 19, Knights 2.
Whoa. There was no mercy rule invoked.
Apparently not. Maybe not in the playoffs. It's survival of the fittest out there. The headliner of the night was Crosby, who drove in 6 runs on 4 hits. Crosby singled in the first, doubled in the second, singled again in the fourth, and then tripled in the fifth. He probably would have hit a home run and completed the cycle if not for an errant tree branch hanging over right field, which knocked down a hard-hit fly ball. Let's get Portland Parks and Maintenance on the case, Andrew. We cannot have trees keeping Crosby from hitting for the cycle, one of the hardest things to do in baseball.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is the first I'm hearing about this, but I already have a theory, and I don't like it. I don't. Are we sure that's a tree? Are we sure that tree is there at all times, or was that a coach for one of the other teams, the Knights, maybe dressed up as a tree? What did it move at all? Did it look like an ent?
I was picturing an ent when you said this. I said last week that the Wilshire Riverside Knights sounded like a fancy neighborhood to me. I don't know if it is or not. It just has that kind of high-class ring to it. Could they be paying someone?
Yes.
Could they have hired someone to pretend to be a tree to knock down Crosby's home run?
You know who's in there, I bet you $1 million was Detlef Schrempf.
Oh, that would check out. I did see a picture of him on an airplane. He could have been flying to Portland.
He was flying to Portland. Did you see a tree outfit in the bag next to him?
I didn't, but he could have checked that. We don't know.
Sure, good call.
The referee, the umpire, I should say, ruled it interference, a la the Kingdome Rafters, circa 1995. Nice call, Ben. I don't know if you come by that honestly, or if you looked that up because you know that we're Mariners fans. But yes, there was a whole issue. I believe it was speakers. The speakers in the Kingdome were a problem from time to time. Of foul balls would hit them, or pop-ups would hit them and then get redirected.
Mm-hmm.
Crosby wasn't alone. The Jalapeno bats were sizzling from the start in the first inning. Amos kicked things off with a triple. Crosby brought him home. Armani followed with another RBI single. And Ollie smoked a double that brought in 2 more. Just like that, the Jalapenos were up big before some parents had even fully settled into their camp chairs. The second inning brought more fireworks. Amos singled in a run. Crosby doubled in 2 more. Nemo added an RBI single, and another run came home on a steal of home. At this point, the Jalapenos were less baseball team and more highly organized, spicy traffic jam. Then came the 5th, when the Jalapenos poured on 5 more. Atlas worked a bases-loaded walk, Amos doubled in 2, and Crosby followed with the aforementioned triple, bringing in 2 more runs and causing at least one coach to briefly consider whether this team had been replaced by professional stunt performers. On the mound, Zaya was excellent, starting the game and allowing just 1 hit and 1 run over 2 innings while striking out 5 and walking none. Crosby then came in for relief and was equally dominant, throwing 2 scoreless innings, allowing no hits and striking out 6. Between the 2 of them, the Jalapenos pitching struck out 11 batters and walked nobody, which is the pitching equivalent of cleaning your room without being asked. That's impressive. The no walks thing, because again, at this age, it's control can be a problem. As we
at any
as
age,
we notice with many for the Mariners, depending on who's in there. Side note, I generally don't love lopsided outcomes. I've been on the losing side of these games plenty of times, and I know how they feel. However, we are now in tournament season, and the rules say any ties in pool play will be resolved by aggregate run differential.
Aha!
So there is some incentive to keep playing hard and keep scoring. That caveat notwithstanding, I did wake up in the middle of the night feeling a little guilty about this win.
Oh.
The Jalapenos have another pool game on Wednesday against Wilshire Riverside Super Chill Ice Cream.
Super Chill Ice Cream is the name of the team.
It appears that they are the Wilshire Riverside, so another team from this league, and they are named Super Chill Ice Cream.
The names are great this year. The name, like across the board, almost all of
like
the
the
team
Flying
names.
Chicken Nuggets that we play them
I
last
like
week.
yes, and I like that as a name. They feel more, well, certainly more creative, but also they just feel more like, I don't know. Like I'm not a big fan of just like, let's try to think of the fiercest animal type of thing.
Yes.
You know.
No, I like names like Super Chill Ice Cream. To prepare for this matchup, the Junior Sluggers enjoyed a team outing to our neighborhood frozen yogurt shop. Picks attached. Coach Ben out. And Andrew, these picks are so great. I'm gonna forward you them. Maybe we can make this one the show pick today.
Okay.
One of the kids, one of the Junior Sluggers, is carrying the Parkside Jalapenos flag across the street. There's a stop walk. These kids look like a combination of a Major League ball team and the Beatles as they stride across the street, being led by the triumphant Jalapenos victory banner. It is a hell of a picture.
And this flag has the logo, right? The cartoon jalapeno.
Yeah.
But then I believe in that logo, the pepper itself is holding a little pennant that says TBTL. So like this is a little aggrandizing for us as well.
I don't think on this flag they did that.
What the hell?
Wow, that went fast.
What kind of erasure is this?
Well, we have a pennant there. We have a
okay, yeah,
a TBTL, whatever you call it. Yeah, right. We do have a TBTL sign that is at the ballpark.
Sure.
So I just don't know this.
No, but I
jalapeno
mean,
is
just think
holding
about
our
it this way: they made a logo. They included TBTL in the logo. Then at some point, they decided to put this logo on a flag, and somebody, I don't know who it could be, but somebody made the decision to remove TBTL from the logo. And I'm just curious how that all went down.
Well, take it up with Coach Ben on Wednesday, Andrew, because I understand you're coming down for the game.
Ooh,
Wednesday night.
Wednesday
against the
night.
Super Chill Ice Cream.
I'm looking
gonna
at the
be there.
calendar. Are you going? This is the last chance, huh? Let me see.
Well,
here.
unless they win, and then there'll be another chance. But I'm actually just
okay.
very excited that the season got extended this far. And again, if you're scoring at home, if you're keeping track of previous seasons, I believe we had 2 wins last season, and we have now gotten to 7 wins this year, if I'm keeping track of things correctly. So that is really impressive. Amazing stuff from the Jalapenos. Great coaching by Ben and the other coaches. And, yeah, it's exciting. Again, with the Mariners just continuing to frustrate me. The ascension, the rise of the TBTL Junior Sluggers has been a welcome relief this baseball season.
Do you know, like, I'll just tell you what I'm trying to do here, and you tell me the information I need. I was going to say, to finish my thought, do you know exactly where they play? In other words, can I just Google Maps this right now and see? Because I don't have anything on Wednesday, and I'm wondering, could me and Genevieve and a little dog named Lucy get in the car and head down? And I wanted to see, what is it? But that's like is it like a 3-hour drive or what?
He was a little dog named Snuggles.
You knew what I was doing.
Yeah, I mean, more than welcome. You could stop off here and have a popsicle or something on your way down. We're about 3/4 of the way down to where the field would be, but I know Becca and I are going to go. So if you were up for it,
If I just typed in Parkside, Portland, would that get me there?
I don't think so. But I'm going to text Ben. I'm going to text Coach Ben. That is,
Okay.
or I'm going to text Ben. One of the two.
I mean, I do think it probably rush hour driving Seattle down to Portland on a Wednesday might
move
be a bit
could be-
much, but we'll see.
Or you could come early.
Early.
We could do the show here. I think Andrew came early to bring us this new printer. You could come down on the earlier side. We could do the show down here together. You'd beat the traffic, and then we could go watch the baseball game.
Give me some details. I think, we'll see. We'll see. It occurred to me that if I'm doing that, then Genevieve and Lucy, I kind of forget sometimes that Genevieve has a, like a job with like a boss, and it's also
Wait, more important than this job?
And it's her busy season. She's writing all kinds of speeches for people because it's graduation time, and so that's what she'd do.
She's not having the AI do that for her?
She is not. She's not yet, as far as I can tell. So anyway, she's going to be writing some praise for AI into all of these graduation speeches because it seems like that is
it's
what
going
the kids want to hear.
really well.
Exactly, especially when they're sort of talked down to in a condescending way.
How in the world could you be that out of it? To be one of these, these commencement speakers, too many of them have been extolling the virtues of AI while talking to a bunch of humans who have just paid a crap load of money to get educated to hopefully get jobs. It's just like the reading of the room or the lack thereof is absolutely stunning. The one that there was this, it was like a real estate CEO in Florida who was like giving a speech to the Florida School of Poetry or something. You know what I mean? It was like the most it was the Florida School for Unpayable Student Loan Debt.
Sure.
And interpretive scarf dancing or something. It was like the people who the least want to hear about. I mean, about the AI revolution. The other thing is, I feel like these commencement speakers they're thinking that their job is to sort of give some really useful advice to these kids or something, but I think your job is to inspire them, right?
Yeah, right.
That's
really
excited
well
to
put.
go out there.
Yeah, that's really well put. The tone, and again, we're just seeing the sort of cherry picked ones that are going viral because you do have and also, so you and I had this conversation off the air already, right? Didn't we? Were we talking? I'm just a little bit worried.
On Friday, I think we were chatting off air.
Off air, okay, yeah, because who is the former Google guy who is giving his
not Larry, it was Eric Schmidt, maybe?
Yes, Schmidt. Anyway, so he was the latest one to go viral because he's like giving a commencement speech somewhere, and he's like, again, he's talking about AI, and everybody's booing him. But at this point in the cycle, I think he was ready for the boos. I think he didn't seem as surprised, or maybe I'm confusing that with another one that went viral. But yeah, it is kind of interesting how for me, the story is, all the kids who are graduating are booing AI. But what I'm really seeing is this condescending tone that a lot of these commencement speakers are taking with these students who are graduating. And I think you put it absolutely perfectly, Luke, and I'm so loath to say that. But it should be inspiring, not condescending.
Yeah. I've told this story before, but it wasn't my high school graduation. It was my buddy Dave was graduating from Roosevelt. I wonder if there are listeners out somewhere who remember this, maybe who were Roosevelt Rough Riders graduating in 1994. But the commencement speaker was the other guy from the show Home Improvement. So not Tim Allen.
The neighbor? Oh, no.
Richard Karn.
Sure, Richard Karn,
not the guy who looks over the fence, but the tool time assistant.
Sure, he's the most likable part of that show, right?
I think he seemed likable on the show. I didn't watch a lot of that show, but it was obviously a big hit. And Richard Karn is from the Pacific Northwest. I think he's from somewhere in the sort of I don't know the state of Washington. And so he was. They tapped him to do the commencement speech for Roosevelt High School. And I was myself a high school senior, pretty young at the time. I didn't have a lot of opinions on a lot of things, but even I was like unbelievably shocked by how bad the speech was. It was like someone. It was like he had quantum leapt into Richard Karn's body. It was like Scott Bakula had quantum leapt into the body of a guy who was about to say the first three words of a commencement speech and had absolutely zero preparation.
Wait, hold on. Did it end with an "oh boy"?
Ziggy. It was totally crazy. It was incoherent. Like as a 16-year-old or 17-year-old, however old I was at the time, I think I could have got up there and freelanced. And I'm somebody who's on the record as having given one of the worst inspirational speeches of all time about being unreasonable during unreasonable times. Yeah. So I know about bad speeches. I've given some, and I swear to God, I could have done better if you just said, try to say something to high schoolers about like what a big deal it is to graduate and also going out into the wide world. It was such a rambling disaster. I almost thought maybe it was some sort of a prank. I'm wondering if there was anyone out there who's listening who was at this same, because I want to say it was at like Memorial Stadium or something. It was somewhere down in the Seattle Center where the school would come for the big thing, and it was a rambling mess.
I'm looking for this. Let's see here. Could it have been? Well, let's see here. In 1995, UW Magazine wrote Richard Karn finds his voice on Home Improvement. I'm wondering if would this have been a tie-in? Would this have been around 95? I graduated high school in 95.
I think it was 94 because my buddy Dave and Joe and we were all the same graduating class. But you remember, Jesus Creek closed down when we were juniors.
Okay.
So we all scattered to the wind. I went to Nathan Hale High School. I think. Oh, maybe it was Ingram. It might have been Ingram.
Okay.
I can't remember if Dave went to Roosevelt or Ingram. If you Google Richard,
I'm
going to
get rid of
speech,
Roosevelt
Ingram.
and just put in Richard Karn's Seattle commencement speech. How do you feel about this? So I'm not finding anything, and I'm going to stop because it's going to distract me too much. But how do you feel about the fact that that is not available online because it was 95? Like within 10 years later, that would be infinitely findable, right?
Yes.
And I'm not totally mad about the fact that I can't find this. Sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes it's when it was something that I worked on in my early radio days or something, and I would love like some evidence of it, or just like to feel some nostalgic feelings. But also sometimes you're kind of like, yeah, that's kind of refreshing. I can't find this speech because it was a moment. People maybe complained about it or maybe laughed about it a little bit, but only those who were there remember.
Yeah, there's something that's nice about it being a lived experience that will live in the heads of the people who were there, and that was a one-time offer. Yeah, I think I come down on feeling okay about that, just because it was a simpler time. I mean, I spend all this time complaining about the hold that my phone has on me and our digital lives and how encompassing those are at this point. And we didn't have footage of it because our digital lives were not that encompassing. I'm trying to think, was the internet? The internet had been invented, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I know the internet had been around for a long time, but I don't feel like in '94 when I was graduating, I don't think we certainly did not have the internet at our house. I remember it being a big deal to go to college because there was going to be internet at the University of Washington, and I worked at the Visitor Information Center, and I think at the front desk we had the highest speed internet out there at the time, which meant I could print out various pictures of like Mickey Mouse, but made just out of like dollar signs and asterisks.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember being in like chat groups. Like, I think, what were they? I mean, they were like fans of, maybe it was some sports ones. I think there was was I getting into Wilco yet? I think I was on some music chat groups too, that I'd sit there at my post at the front desk of the University of the Visitor Information Center and go on some chat rooms and talk about Wilco or something.
Yeah, I remember my friend Ed Bristois was the first person to have internet in his home, but I didn't really play with it once. I just remember going in and literally standing in his kitchen and looking at the computer one time, like, that's internet, huh? And I think it might have been making that squealy modem-y sound or something like that. I think his sister might have been using it. And that was my experience with the internet. And that would have been probably 94, 95, right before I went to college. And then in college, I definitely didn't have internet in my dorm or my studio apartment. We would go to the library, and you would do your interneting in the library. So that kind of gives you a sense of where things were. And then by the end of my college career, more and more people, it was more normal to have internet in your living space. I still did not, though. I would not for a long time. It's weird how I love technology, but I'm so late to it.
When I was working at the Visitor Information Center, there was a camera in Red Square. So there was, and you could go on, and this was mind-blowing. You could go on like Netscape probably, and you could go to where the link was for the camera that was in Red Square, and you could click on that link. And in a mere 45 to 50 seconds, Andrew, you would be able to see
yes,
a 4-minute-old photograph of what was sitting in Red Square.
Every 4 minutes, it would refresh slowly.
You could refresh it, and it would. But that just seemed impossible. That I was like, I'm sitting at this desk. Red Square is like 3 blocks from here, and I'm looking at I'm looking through a camera at Red Square.
I know.
What happened a mere 4 minutes ago?
The weird thing is I wonder if that is still, even though the technology and the delivery system changed, I'm wondering if that would have been the same actual camera that was focused on Red Square when I worked at KUOW, which is, of course, off campus, but still affiliated with the University of Washington. And so when I was working at KUOW, what was that, 10, 15 years ago now, I don't like saying that, but it was a while ago. But they in the main studio at KUOW, like kind of the control room, where every now and then a microphone would open to like kind of give the weather or like a quick break. But other than that, it's more like where like kind of the producers and stuff are, while all the talk show people are kind of like actually behind microphones in the studio next to it. And all that is to say, in this control room area, there was an old tube television that hung from the ceiling and had a camera focused on Red Square, but the camera was so old and so bad, and something was wrong with it, and it really did, like, my memory of it is the whole thing was tinted red, not out of any kind of like, oh, this is the Red Square camera. It was just so old and like foggy, and it always looked so ominous. And I think the idea was the person who was giving the weather could just kind of look up and say like, oh, it's raining out there or whatever. But I think it just looked like it was raining blood all the time. I think they've updated it now.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, the UW Red Square cam. And let me tell you, it doesn't take 45 seconds to refresh. It's just a live camera look. I can see I thought they were maybe working on the obelisk, but I'm guessing that actually what that is maybe a bunch of flowers and things. There was a really sad story where a young woman was killed on the UW, adjacent to the UW campus, and I'm guessing that there are a bunch of flowers at the foot of the obelisk, maybe in honor of her life. That's kind of a big guess by me, but
yeah, maybe, because it does look like, I'm looking at it too. It does look like a memorial.
A memorial
there.
of one kind or another.
Yeah, I also see. Wait a second, is that Genevieve holding hands with a fellow on her lunch break? What is going on?
This is the worst way for you to find this out.
I mean, is it?
What were you rooting for? Something less public?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I can think of worse ways to find out.
We was hoping for some razzle-dazzle.
Razzle-dazzle.
That's right, man. Razzle-dazzle.
On your mark.
On your mark.
Get set.
Get set.
Now ready.
Ready. Go.
Everybody razzle-dazzle.
All right, let's thank some dazzling donors. We do this show 5 days a week, even on the holidays, because people are donating money to make this our job. We work here, as does our friend John Sklaroff. And these donations of dough are keeping the whole thing going. And today we'd like to thank Sarah Hayward, who's on Bainbridge Island, Washington. I wonder if Sarah was at that commencement speech that Richard Karn gave. It's possible.
Maybe. Sarah, get at us.
Can't rule it out. Sarah says, Dear Biz Boys, I finally know what to say in my Dazzler message this year. I absolutely love the idea of an hour for us and an hour for you. I just finished listening to episode 4686. It has Ashton Kutcher as the show pick. Would that have been like a punked thing, maybe?
Yes. Good. I was like, why would we do that? Why would I do that? Because sometimes I have to pick a photo and I'm like, I don't know. But yes, we were talking about punked a month or two ago.
Well, that 4,600, oh yeah, that is recent. I thought we were already on a higher number than that. I was like, well, that was years ago. No, that was pretty recently. I don't give a bleep about sports. This is Sarah talking, not me. You know I give a bleep. I give too much of a bleep, Andrew.
Sure, I know.
I don't give a bleep about sports, and I don't mean the F word, just the S word, so maybe I'll just say it. I don't give a hootenanny about sports.
I love that.
But when you guys are doing a no-point conversation or any other undeclared no-point behavior, I leave the podcast running in my ear holes, and I get shit done around my house. I get the kitchen picked up. I get the garbage out or a bed made. Sports is the absolute best background noise for me to get anything done, so just keep it up and live it up. What each and every one of you honeys do is so important. From our friend Sarah on Bainbridge. Well, Sarah, thank you. What you're doing is so important here. And I kind of know that feeling. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of spoken word podcasts, and like sometimes I'm able to just like drift. If I know they're talking about something I don't really care about, then I can let my mind wander. There are other times where I'm like listening really hard because it's like Chris Hayes talking about AI with someone or some other kind of technical topic that I'm really trying to absorb. And then sometimes it's nice because I'll be listening to a show. I'll be listening like Pod Save, and then they'll do like an interview with like an up and coming, like a person running for Congress somewhere, and then I'm like, okay, I can kind of turn my brain off.
Yeah, but you don't turn off the podcast. Just sort of keep you like the patter.
I like the patter, as does Sarah. Sarah, thank you so much for being such an awesome supporter of the show for all these years. We really, really couldn't be here without you. Maestro.
On your mark.
On your mark.
Get set.
Get set.
Now ready.
Ready. Go.
Everybody razzle dazzle.
It's the one, the only, Ivan Vukovic over there in Amsterdam, the Netherlands.
Nice, Ivan.
Second,
Always good to
by the way,
hear from
second
you.
Netherlands. We've known Ivan for years and years, including when Ivan was living in the Seattle area.
Yes.
Now Ivan and his wife, Rachel, have been over there in the Netherlands.
Quite some
I
time.
I think we had Marshall last week from the Netherlands.
Oh, yeah.
So we've been very Netherlands heavy on the show of late. Ivan says, hey, dummies, I found myself creatively bankrupt when it came to brainstorming what to submit for my Dazzling Donor message this year, and I was close to foregoing it altogether. Suddenly, I realized I've never used this opportunity to express some proper heartfelt gratitude to my partner and TBTL progenitor, Rachel. If I knew that part of this story, Andrew, I had forgotten this. I know that you...
I worked
believe
with Rachel
Yes.
at KOW. We both were either volunteers or maybe, I don't know. It was just kind of an in-between phase, I think, for both of our careers. And so I knew Rachel that way, but and then eventually, I mean, I think I knew Rachel before she and Ivan got together. I could be wrong about that, and that's their business. But my point of this is, I did not think that Rachel brought Ivan to the TBTL party. I thought that he was a TBTL 10, and he sort of like bolstered the TBTL input in that relationship. But I guess not.
Sounds like we had it exactly backwards. So Rachel, thank you.
Yeah.
Many years ago, right before she and I started, look at it's all right here in the note, Andrew. If we would allow our eyes to travel even one sentence ahead, we would know the answer to these things. Many years ago, right before she and I started dating, Rachel suggested I check out this podcast that she was obsessed with. Soon after, on a cross-country flight, I was just sitting there on my iPod with a conversation between Luke and Jen about how The Office wasn't really all that good anymore. But hey, this Parks and Rec show really seemed to be on an upward trajectory. It was hashtag content that spoke to my sensibilities.
Hey, let me jump in here for 1 second, because I just realized I was patting myself on the back too much there, because I kind of realized as you were reading this. She was listening to TBTL, Rachel was, before I was ever a part of it. And I knew Rachel. So Rachel and I were probably hanging out at KOW, and she was obsessed with your TBTL with Jen and Sean, and it would be years before I would join the gang.
And honestly, the fact that she met you first and was listening to the podcast, if you were on it, I found surprising. So this makes a lot more sense.
And I believe she probably stopped listening about the time I joined the podcast. So, I mean,
but we've got Ivan locked in.
All of this is making sense now. Thank goodness.
We've got Ivan locked in, thank God. It was then around late October 2009 that two of the longest relationships of my life began.
Aww.
Thank you, Rachel. Among the many things you've given me in this life, I'm glad you forced me to listen to your weird little podcast. Power out from Ivan. Well, Ivan, buddy, so nice to hear from you. I hope you and Rachel and everybody else are doing well there in the Netherlands, and thanks again.
Hello and welcome to Top Story.
All right, our top story in a surprise, and I think an unannounced little surprise. Stephen Colbert, who of course had his last episode of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert on last Thursday night on CBS television. Then, in fact, I believe he made a joke during his final Late Show appearance about how, 11 years ago or something, before he started doing The Late Show, when he'd already been hired for the job but it hadn't started yet, they had, as kind of a bit, he had gone to this public access show in Michigan. And in Marion, Michigan, maybe?
Monroe. Only in Monroe.
Excuse me. Yeah. Only in Monroe. And had done he had done a show on the local public access station, again, just kind of as a bit, and he said something about like how he'd probably be back there sooner than later. And sure enough, was it Friday night?
I think it was Friday, because he makes a joke in it. He says something like, it's been 23 hours since I've been on television. It was about all I could take.
Right. So he, the very next day, headed over to Michigan, to Monroe, Michigan, and did this talk show, or I guess you call it a talk show, with his musical director, Jack White, which is great. You've watched more of this than I have. What did you make of it?
It was really special. My journey to this was, I saw it all over my various timelines, on Friday and Saturday, I think. And this is where I really appreciate Friends. I'm not kidding. Like sometimes you see something that is buzzy like this, and you're like, oh yeah, I'll check that out. Yeah, I'll check it out. And you kind of never do. But you need a little extra push from people you know, right? And so our buddy Hauser was texting me. He's like, hey, did you watch this? And I was like, no, I keep seeing it in my timeline. He's like, I would recommend it. And then I had good intentions. I still didn't sit down to do it because again, even though this is like kind of quirky and it's not like your typical late night programming, of course. I just don't sit down to watch. It was a full hour-long episode without commercials, So, and I just don't sit down to watch that. And then I saw our friend Anna on Sunday, and she's like, have you watched this thing? It's so good. And I was like, no, but you're like the second friend who's really told me to do this. So I came home yesterday and watched it with Lucy, and I am so glad I did. It's really hard to explain why this felt so special, but I didn't, I told you I'd watched the monologue of his final late show, but I wasn't super interested in watching the whole thing. I wasn't somebody who watched that show, but watching this was, first of all, he admitted to a little catharsis at the end of the show. A spoiler alert, they announced at the end of the show that this is the last time that this community access show is using the set. And he says, this is not a joke. They told me that we can destroy the set at the end of the show. And for reasons I can't quite explain, I feel like destroying something right now. So it actually, and even though, we talked about how uplifting and joyful his last episode on the network was, it was nice to see him at least acknowledge the fact
go into a rage room.
Just like, yeah, kind of. And it wasn't toxic or anything. Actually, the whole show, I'm kind of starting at the end, but it's just kind of where my brain went. But at the very end, they do kind of destroy the set a little bit. And then you see them throwing chairs and stuff into a dumpster. Like basically everybody who was part of the show of this particular, community access episode, they're all just standing in front of a burning dumpster, and you're kind of like, okay, this is him just being a little, is like, we got to see the CBS Colbert and maybe even the Colbert Report Colbert, but what we saw yesterday or this weekend was a little bit of the Strangers with Candy Colbert, a little bit of that Gen X-y guy who wanted to put a little bit of a dumpster fire out there, but here's how I would describe this, Luke. It was like the dream. I had texted somebody this, so I'm plagiarizing myself, but it was like it was like the dream of the John
yourself.
the John Mulaney show that you and I are obsessed with. Only this wasn't live. It was like live to tape. I think this was shot very much like a late night show would be, but you could tell that there was some editing and stuff involved in the same way the Late Show would be. And so because of that, you didn't have to just sit through some really painful, awkward stuff, but it also, there was no audience to laugh at his jokes. Like, it was just so great to see him be real, be funny, do several set pieces where he's actually, like we heard at the beginning of the show, kind of sitting in a chair and doing, jokes that were written out. But also he interviewed the two women who usually host the show. They came out, and he had done this with them, I think, 11 years ago as well. And it was really sweet and touching, but also awkward at times, but not like unwatchably awkward the way Mulaney would sometimes get. And again, I'm not using this to shit on Mulaney. I wish that show would come back, and I appreciate what he was trying to do. But he's interviewing these two women, and they're just so Midwestern, middle-aged women, maybe like kind of retirement age or whatever. And like one of them sometimes is trying to be a little bit funny, but the other one isn't. And then he immediately starts doing, I think he wanted to give a shout out to some local distillery, and so he pulls out shot glasses, and they start drinking a little bit. And it was like,
I saw that clip,
and it was like good because it loosened them up just a little bit, and you could just tell that like it was not too scripted. Like, it was very well produced. You could tell that a chair was in the right place before Jack White just came over. You know what I mean? It wasn't like all off the cuff. This was clearly something that was very produced, but in a community access studio. And when these two women were talking, one of them ended up talking about how she had thyroid cancer and was on the other side of it successfully now. But Colbert, she said, I talked all about this on my social media. You could just look it up. He's like, we did look it up, and we're going to play the video of you talking about this tough experience. And he found a video of her from 2017 when all of those filters were like on Instagram and Meta were such a big deal. And
so like have a cat face or something?
Basically, it was like that squished face with the really big eyes.
And she's talking like this about, I know a lot of you have been having a lot of questions about where I am on my cancer journey.
And it was like just such a, and it was because she's all over Facebook. She's like the perfect demographic, Midwestern woman of that age who would be excited to play around with these filters, but doing it on Facebook, not TikTok or something, or even Instagram, you know? So they played a little bit of that. And then he said, so I want to now interview you some more about your cancer journey, but in that spirit. So they brought out a bunch of helium balloons and he forced the guests to like suck in a bunch of helium. They run out of balloons at one point. So the producer just brings out the tank and he's hitting the tank. And while you can sort of, I'll bet you they were ready to bring out the tank. I'll bet you like he was like, okay, I hope this happens. But also you could tell they were getting loopy because they were really getting I mean, I know helium doesn't make you high, but they were depriving themselves of oxygen. And like, I really think you would have loved it. And then there's like some really tender moments where the one woman is talking about her cancer journey, and then he turns to the other woman and says like, well, what was it like for you, her good friend? And she's talking about it. And then at one point, the woman who had cancer is talking, and her friend just like instinctively reaches over. I don't know why this is such a small detail that got me, but she just puts her hand on her friend's thigh and is just sort of like kind of just gently comforting her. And I don't even think she knew she was doing it, you know, and it just like spoke to like, it was just, it hit all of the right, it was sentimental in ways that seemed very real and not like, you know, like fabricated, but he's just so good at knowing how to get these moments out of people. And it was really, I thought it was really, really special and exactly the kind of thing that I think sort of like pushes the buttons of what you were reminiscing about, like the wild side of Letterman when he was a kid throwing shit off the top of a TV studio. Like it truly had that feeling to me. And the Jack White stuff, when they would turn to Jack White, it felt like watching Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I don't know how much you watched that. He was like Crag over by his like little audio thing. And they, as you heard in the intro tape, they had at times a little bit of a little tense relationship, but obviously kind of like in a joking way. But it seems so much like Space Ghost at times. Like I am so glad I was encouraged to watch this because I could have seen myself just being like, oh yeah, I know about that thing, but never actually watched it. You know.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you watched it, and now I'll watch it in its entirety. It also raises the question. We were talking about this on Friday. Like it's obviously a bummer. To me, it's a bummer that the Late Show with Stephen Colbert is going away. And also, I do kind of miss. It's funny. I was watching some TikToks or whatever over the weekend, and it was kind of like, who was it talking about the end of the monoculture? Oh, it was this guy named Guy Branum, who's a comedian and writer.
Yeah. Friend of Lindy's, right? Isn't he on
Yes,
Lindy's?
friend of Lindy's,
Yeah.
Livewire guest fairly recently. And a very smart individual, Guy Branum. I think he's won Celebrity Jeopardy a couple of times.
Oh,
anyway,
wow!
A very thoughtful person and a very funny person. And he was talking about the monoculture. I think he was my sense was he was basically not that broken up that another white guy approaching 60 was not going to be sitting behind a desk talking to someone. And I can kind of see that take as well. Like I was saying on our show on Friday that there was something comforting to me about the monoculture. There's something about when something would happen on Carson or something or Letterman, and there was a reasonable chance that other people would have seen it, would know about it the next day. It would be a conversation. I kind of liked that. But I said also, we were playing that clip of the kid that I saw on TikTok who's talking about, he's sending an anti-bully message. Mm-hmm. And also how that's also content now. And that's content that doesn't need to go through any of the filters of how you get on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, how you get to be a comedian who performs on that show. So I sort of miss the monoculture, but I also like the fact that there are all kinds of ways we can be entertained, and people can just get on their phone and record a funny video, and you and I can be cracked up and can be sending each other additional videos of the guy over the weekend.
Yeah, Punching Metal. Or at least referencing Punching Metal. Yeah, and what I liked about this was, again, not that I was super invested in it. I don't want to make it sound like I was a super, late night television watcher. You know that I'm not. But there was something sad and angry making about how his show ended and how the show is ending and the legacy that is kind of dying with it. But what watching this made me feel yesterday And by the way, I ended up watching it twice because Genevieve ended up coming home, and I'm like, just watch the beginning of this. And then we end up watching the whole thing again. It really felt like, oh, you know what? Like he might be free to do way more interesting things now. Like
that's where I was going with this.
Oh,
like,
sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, please. I mean, exactly. Like he doesn't make this if he's still doing CBS every night. And also, this is probably more interesting to me than a typical episode of his show on CBS. Not that it wasn't a good show, but just, there's a certain kind of, a show like that, the show he was doing is kind of an aircraft carrier. It's a big thing. It's hard to turn it. It's like it's kind of got this momentum of its own comedically, et cetera. And, the guests that are going to go on there are going to be pretty famous, and they're going to be prepped on what their stories are. It's just kind of a format thing. And so, like the idea that this thing got created is kind of a hopeful sign. I mean, I hope to see more stuff of Stephen Colbert actually, again, ironically, maybe making stuff that I'm more inclined to watch than just a typical episode of The Late Late Show.
What I like is there's no audience here, right? And so, and he truly
Are
is.
the camera people kind of laughing occasionally?
Yes, well, that's what I want to. I want
a tiny bit of mirth in the background of some of the clips.
This is what I love. So he. He's doing kind of a monologue at the beginning, but sitting in a chair. I mean, it starts so funny because he's pretending to water a plant. I can't even explain to you why this is so funny, but he's watering the plant with like kind of one of those old-fashioned, almost spindly, like kind of metal water or flower
Watering
pots
can.
or watering cans or whatever, but with a really thin sort of spout on it. And I'm sure there's nothing in it, but he's just like pretending to water this fake plant. And then when he's like, oh, hello, just literally the way he sets it down, he doesn't set it on its bottom. He just sets it on this, and he's got a glass table in front of him. And that as a television professional, glass tables are not where it's at. Like anything you set on them are going to make a lot of noise. And so he like clanks this watering can down on this thing. And I noticed throughout he had, I didn't even mention his other guest was Jeff Bridges. No, Jeff, good.
The Dumb and Dumber one.
Dumb and Dumber guy. Yeah, exactly. Whatever.
Jeff Dumb and Dumber guy.
Jeff Dumb and Dumber guy. And like, that was actually the worst part of it. I think he was trying too hard to be kind of funny or cool or something like that. But they made these gross sandwiches together that Jeff Dumb and Dumber guy once made for himself.
Daniels.
Jeff Daniels, exactly.
And I blame him for having a last name that's a first name.
Yes,
that's why we can't remember.
Yeah, it's not on me at all.
No, don't have a last name that's too generic.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but like even during that, I could tell like Colbert was like slamming the plates down. Like I think he was like kind of leaning into what a bad idea it is to have a glass table on the set. But also what I noted is like you could watch this and be like, oh yeah, this is just like, oh man, there's just like, this is just really low budget. And you could have the impression that it also was low effort. But I'm telling you, just knowing the tiniest bit about production, this was not low effort. You could just, first of all, he does like a bunch of jokes, like a lot of jokes.
But they're like local, right?
And they're all local because one of them is a catching up on what has happened in Monroe and since the 11 years since he's been there. Another one is a community calendar that he does with Jeff Daniels. And, like some of them are actually written jokes that a team of people had to write. The credits at the end.
That's what I was wondering about.
Yeah, the credits at the end were super, super long. And I think it was his way of, first of all, like thanking probably everybody he worked with at CBS. I think this was his way of subtly going out kind of the way he wanted to a little bit and giving some more credit in places. But you could just tell that like there were bits that really took some technical know-how to end up having to do. But when you start watching it, you don't know what the vibe is going to be, and you just sort of hear the camera people chuckling. And it really is the camera people who work on that show for the cable access show.
I wondered about that. Do you think they used them, or do you think they brought in
I think they really
Colbert's
used them
own
for
people?
the cameras,
Okay.
but I think that they brought in a whole bunch of people for support, for writing, for producing. But then they used like the main producer of that show. Her name was Genevieve, coincidentally. I'm also in a relationship with a Genevieve, as some listeners may have tracked. But this young woman who I think also was on the show, and she was so funny because they had her coming out kind of doing funny things. It's hard to explain, but she wasn't an actor trying to be funny and pretending that it wasn't funny, but she also was sort of doing bits and just naturally laughing at the absurdity of the situation. Genevieve was an absolute delight, and her relationship with him got fraught at times, which was great. But to answer your question about the laughing, I have the perfect piece of tape that I wanted to play for you, and you set it up. At one point, he's like sitting behind the desk. He's doing all of his material, that is scripted material, and you can just hear people laughing a little bit. And he's like, I'm telling jokes, just laugh.
In January of 2019, Monroe residents hailed the reopening of northbound I-75 after a truck that was carrying human waste lost its cargo on the roadway. Not the worst traffic incident in Michigan history, but easily number 2. Since the last time I was here, you look like you're suppressing laughter. Like that sound you just made was like, I don't want to make any laugh sounds while he's telling jokes. You could just laugh. It's really okay.
We do not know who he's talking to there. It might be one of the women he's about to interview. It might be a camera person. We don't get like a shot of behind the scenes.
Why is the sound of unmiked people laughing in the background of something one of the greatest sounds in the world?
Do you remember you and Jen when I had the very first time you and I met in person, and that I met Jen in person? Vives and I had just moved to Seattle. I said, I'd love to come by. You said come by during TBTL. You were on the radio then at that point. And I remember I was such a public radio guy. You don't make noise in the studio when the mic is open. And I think it was between, I can't remember if you said this to me on the air or like during a commercial break, but you're like, you or Jen had to tell us, like, just laugh. We like the sound of people laughing at our jokes. It was almost exactly like this.
I love that effect that show, The Soup, used to have
yes,
that. They really perfected it, which was just kind of like just the sound of like when you get a camera person or a producer or someone who's in the background, when you actually get them laughing. Same thing sometimes on sports radio. What was I listening to recently? It was something I was enjoying, and it was like you could tell that they had. Oh, actually, it was a little show called The Howard Stern Show, Andrew. I don't know if you've heard of it, but like I think what it was, Fred Norris, who's the sound effect guy. Sometimes he'll just have his mic open, and then you'll just, when something particularly funny happens, you'll just hear him laughing off mic, like he's genuinely getting cracked up by it. It's the greatest sound.
Yeah,
it is. I don't know. There's some evolutionary component to it. It's like a confirmation that what you're feeling is being felt by someone else or something, I guess.
But not having the whole like studio crowd laughing.
Yeah, not a
yeah.
laugh track, not the studio crowd being mic'd. By the way, that was a kind of interesting. When I was filming in LA, I think maybe 2 trips ago, we were on the Warner Brothers lot, and because it was, we're interviewing this guy Chuck Lorre and people that are associated with this thing that he's making for HBO, but because he's also got shows that are on CBS or on the Warner Brothers lot, we were on the set of a sitcom, like an old school sitcom. I don't think I'd ever actually been on one of those sets before. I think I was on the Young Sheldon or something, but like I don't think that had a laugh track or it had a live audience. This fully has like a bunch of risers with chairs on them where people are sitting to watch the performance of this, to laugh and have it be picked up on the recording. There was something so quaint about that. I didn't see that in action. It was the set was empty for the day, but like I was just wandering around when they were resetting the lights, and I looked up and I was like, oh my God, this is a real thing. Like they bring in 100 people to sit and watch this thing get performed so that the people will laugh so they can get the recording of it.
Which means they also probably have like a rest in peace, but like Brody Stevens type who comes out. Like Brody Stevens was a comedian who was famous for, having some mental health issues and being very open about it and sort of turning that into a big part of his comedy as well. But also he worked, and he would talk about like working his ass off all the time by like, was it the Ellen DeGeneres show or something? He was like known for being the guy who goes out before certain talk shows and warming up the crowd so they're ready to laugh when Tim the Tool Man Taylor comes out.
Speaking of public access, I've told this to you before, but when I was a kid, Brody Stevens had a public access show in Seattle with a guy named Tana, and it was called Tana and Brody, and it was deeply weird, and I loved it.
I forgot that you had told me about that. Is Brody from here, or he just
must
ended
have been
up here?
No, I think he was. He must have been. I don't. No, that's not true. I think he was from Arizona.
Oh no, wait, no, because he was always
a baseball player,
and he was always obsessed with his Valley phone number, right? So I think maybe he grew up in the Valley, right?
For some reason, he for a period of time was in Seattle doing. And again, this is the show, Andrew, where I just consistently try to crowdsource things. Was anyone at a Richard Karn high school graduation speech? And did anyone else see Tana and Brody on public access in Seattle? It was a truly crazy show. It was just like the two of them sitting at some desk or something. And he must have been in Seattle for some period of time doing that show. And as a kid, I was so inspired by it. I was like, wow, you can just... And then me and my buddy Peter, we took the classes so that we could have our own television show, our own public access show, but then we never did it because it was too much work.
By the way, I'm just going to give these details, not for the audience, but just to make you feel better. The reason you thought maybe Arizona is it says Stephen Brody he was born in Los Angeles to parents. His dad was a private investigator from Phoenix, and his family was originally from New Mexico and Arizona. So that's why you had that sort of Southwest connection, I think.
Well, if anybody else remembers, here we go, from Reddit, not arguably the best public access show ever, I've considered, let's see here. Man.
Here it is.
This is a rabbit hole I could go way down, Andrew. I was really into public access when I was a kid, because they would have weird shows on there. They also had this woman named Shannon Kringen, who was the goddess Kring. She would do all kinds of very artsy things. She would paint her face. She would paint shoes. She would do these kinds of exotic dances. She was sometimes topless. So
that's right. In public access, there was kind of no hold bars.
There was a show called the Mike Hunt Show. The Mike Hunt Show on public access that we would watch. We would watch Goddess Kring. We would watch Tano and Brody. So I'm looking at the subreddit or the Reddit for public access 90s in Seattle, public access TV in the 90s. And somebody is referencing, let's see.
While you look, can I also jump in?
Please.
The first sentence under career is on Wikipedia is he's tried stand-up in Los Angeles before moving to Seattle, where he began developing an act in addition to co-creating and co-starring a public access television show with, how do you say his name again? Or
I think it was Tana.
Tana Manu, called Brody
Tana Manu.
and Tanu, that garnered a cult following.
A cult following called Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're referencing, there was this guy named the Reverend Bruce Howard. This guy, the Reverend Bruce Howard, was just such a weirdo. He would just stand there in a suit and he would just say things into the camera. He sang a song that is still with me to this day, 35 years later. Reverend Bruce Howard on public access, he was just singing to the camera, "Your brain's with the king, and it's such an awesome thing. Your brain's with the king, and it's such a lovely thing." He was just singing "Your brain's with the king, and it's such a," and then he would add in a little detail. He would change it up. And to this day, I'll find myself walking around going, "Your brain's with the king, and it's such an awesome thing." Just wow, this is a real trip down memory lane for me. 1990s Seattle Public Access TV. Okay, all that is to say, this Colbert thing sounds really cool, and I will watch that. And yes, I'm excited. I was wondering, who wrote it? Was it Colbert writers? Did he pay them? Did he have them steal time from CBS? They must have been working on this for a little while leading up to this.
They must have. And I think it was a lot. I really do think it was a lot of people. And that's sort of the dichotomy in your head when you're watching it. It seems so low budget, and it does have a feeling of kind of well, okay, let's just try this thing. But you and I just know enough, and obviously you know more about television than I do. I'm not trying, but we know enough about what you need just infrastructure-wise to have in place if the conversation is going to go in this way. So you know that there was a lot of work, a lot of thought, and a lot of work that went into this. He can't just do this every day because he's just it's not a throwaway project. You know what I mean? But it had the sort of the patina of that.
Yes.
And it was again, I hope I didn't over sell it or give too much away, but it was I hope I didn't ruin it in any way, but I just really, really enjoyed it. And it was what I can't explain it. It's kind of what I needed to close that chapter, sort of.
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's honestly making me feel hopeful, where I was feeling pretty sad about the bad guys winning yet again at the end of last week. I love that he went off and did this. Now, this is the last thing I'll say about this. Is it a Reddit or a subreddit? It would be a subreddit. r/Seattle.
Yeah, so that's a Seattle subreddit, you would say.
And guess who started this post? Guess who posted this entire thing? The Wild World of Public Access Cable TV in Seattle in the 1990s. And then it's got a picture of Shannon Kringen. And then who is commenting repeatedly throughout, kind of going back and forth with people and talking about these different shows.
I'm trying. Could it be Chris Hayes? Not Chris Hayes. Andy Haynes?
No.
I'm trying to think of
our
Seattle
friend,
people.
Rossafonic.
Oh my goodness gracious!
It's our guy Ross Reynolds.
Ross is bowling a sport.
Yes, and then Ross is in the comments section mixing it up. But I need to know this for once and for all. If someone posts something on Reddit, that's called a subreddit, right?
No, that's a post. A subreddit is the community. So the community is that
So
r
r/Seattle.
That means that's the Seattle subreddit.
Okay, that's the Seattle subreddit.
And then and then Ross posted in the Seattle subreddit.
Got it. There was bong hit championships, apparently. I wonder if Seattle was overrepresented with kind of good, weird public access shows. I wonder if that was pretty typical in any city in America that you went into, or if Seattle was especially fertile for that kind of stuff.
I wonder too, and we should probably wrap up the show, but so the idea of cable access, even though it's clearly still around, I mean, Colbert just did this thing, but like it really is of an era that is very specific. That you can track it down. It was because of the introduction of cable and the idea of cable access. That was some sort of agreement between the private cable companies, right, and the communities that were laying cable for this private venture. I think that was part of the thing. Well, you have to allow some channels for the community, right? Some nonprofit channels for the community, and that's why cable access started. And if you think about like the heyday of that, it would be the 90s, and Seattle was also like known as a very creative, kind of off the wall place in the 90s. Like that seems not that like obviously New York has a huge one, right? That's Chris Gethard's thing. That was on New York City, but
I think so, or maybe New Jersey.
Was it okay?
But
Jersey.
I
Not
don't.
New York. Okay,
he's from Jersey, but I don't know if
Okay.
that show, if the studios were, if that was a New York public, or New York public access, or New Jersey public.
But I could
access.
see, just to your point, I could really see Seattle being a place where your Brody Stevens end up, because Seattle's a cool place to be at that time. And you also have Almost Live. Like, I don't know any other city that has a sort of the
It definitely
Almost
inspired
Live thing.
me and Peter to think like, yeah, we could just make a comedy show. We could make a sketch-based comedy show. We had to go take the classes. So you have to sign up. And this was on Aurora Avenue, by the way, right by that Burgermaster.
Oh, yeah. Right by my house.
And so we would we went and we took the classes and we sat through the things that we were certified to like operate the thing, whatever. And then we just never did a show because, again, we were kids and it was the kind of thing that seemed cool until we realized, oh, this is actually going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
I've told the story a million times, but the only time I made it on public access was this nutcase guy had heard me on KVI as the producer and call screener, and he had me, he was producing this conservative talk show on the local public access station called, I think it was called or Washington Conservative Live or something, but then he changed the name to That's Right.
Oh,
exclamation point.
I got to say, that play on words, not KVI, but what was the conservative station that was in the cluster that you and I worked for?
Oh, well, that was KVI. No, KTTH, the one where we work. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, KTTH. They had bumper stickers that I think I might even have one on my clipboard down here. Like even me, I think I had a KTTH bumper sticker that says "We're always right" or something along the lines. Which you gotta give them credit, right? Do you have to give them credit?
Andrew, your hat says that conservatives weren't always right, but it should say you were always wrong.
Oh, Pam Bondi write that for you?
Burn.
Ooh, that's adorable.
One last thing that I'm just going to throw out there on the subject of Seattle public access television. There was a guy named Richard Lee, he's being listed here, who had the show Kurt Cobain Was Murdered, and he would just go around and like relentlessly bother Courtney Love or anyone who he would always just be standing by like a hedge, like on the outskirts of maybe the property or something. He would just be in these random places. And I mean, the funny part is there's probably a fairly substantial online community of conspiracy-minded people who think that, in fact, maybe he was murdered at this point. But this guy was kind of ahead of the curve on it, but also really bad at spelling out the case. But doggedly obsessed with it. And he ran for like Seattle City Council or something. He ran for some public office where, because of the equal time clause, I think I had to interview him for KUOW. Like, I was just the intern, but they were like, someone has to like interview this guy because we're having on the legit candidates. So I have this vague memory, either I interviewed or I engineered it, of doing the interview with the guy whose entire platform, he was probably running for mayor, and his entire platform was Kurt Cobain was murdered.
I think that I know that you've mentioned this before, but I feel like I also heard about it maybe because does he figure prominently into the documentary that was made about Kurt?
Kurt Cobain's death.
Yeah,
I think he.
yeah.
Yes, I think he. Because I forget. Then who made that doc? It was
That's
a kind
what
of
I'm trying to figure
It was
out
a
here.
well-regarded filmmaker who kind of came in and put some oxygen into that story. That there was like some things about the death of Kurt Cobain that were pretty unexplainable. To the point where I think that the police, didn't the Seattle police recently just have to say that like they had to announce they're not reopening the case, or that they had reopened the case and decided that their initial read on the thing was correct or something? There was like recent news in the death of Kurt Cobain.
I'm trying to figure out if even the documentary I'm talking about is Kurt and Courtney or
That's the one I'm
Kurt
thinking
Cobain montage of Heck. I think it's Kurt and Courtney.
Oh, you're right.
I think Kurt and Courtney might have been the one that focused, because that's
It was Nick
1998.
Broomfield was the filmmaker.
Okay, yeah, that's Kurt and Courtney then. Yes, and I think that is the one that focuses on this guy, because I think this is the documentary that's a little bit more unhinged, right? And I think Montage of Heck might be more like kind of mainstream look at his life. I think I could be wrong.
I guess YouTube is the new public access television, right? If we're thinking about it that way.
Sort of.
It's kind of it's probably made it generally unnecessary, because if I want to, I know we're wrapping the show up here, I promise, but if I want to, let me just start this whole another media discussion. But like, I was just reading those comments about the different shows and thinking like, do they even do public access TV? Well, obviously they do it. Colbert was on it. But I mean, like, what's the utility? Because you could go on YouTube as easily as you could go on that channel of your TV, and it's a much lower barrier to get your stuff on YouTube than to go and do the TV channel, I guess. So it's probably, and TikTok, I guess.
You know, that was one other thing about this cable access show, this specific episode that I liked, actually, even though it sounds like a pain in the ass, is it's on YouTube, right? And so I'm watching it. I have a smart TV, not to brag, E equals MC squared. And so I have YouTube as an app on my TV, the same way that I might turn on Pluto or Netflix or HBO or whatever, right? And so I go to find it, and I realize, I don't think there's like an official version of this on YouTube. Like maybe only in Monroe or that cable network or whatever has its own YouTube page, but there does not seem to be a definitive copy of this.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the first one I was watching, whoever grabbed it, there was some internet glitching going on. And I didn't realize until I was watching it again later with Genevieve that I found a cleaner copy sort of accidentally. And the fact that, and by the way, I also saw people screen capping things on Blue Sky. The reason it's popping up all over the place is because CBS keeps on trying to take it down. Like CBS, these videos keep disappearing of this cable access show, and then it'll say that a copyright because of property owned by CBS, and it's like The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, even though it's not The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
How do they have any claim on it?
I don't know if it's the robots that are automatically doing this, if it's because he does play a clip, but it would be totally public domain. He plays a clip of his own show, but within the context of him playing a clip of his old show, like he'd be allowed to do that. You know what I mean? Like you're allowed to play clips. So I don't know if it's an active effort on the part of some management or something over at CBS or Paramount or whatever, or if it's just the computers getting confused. But partially because of that, to find this, you just have to find it. You have to go in kind of digging through YouTube to find a copy that you like of it, like digging through your cassette drawer to find like the Grateful Dead live in Toledo, 1972 or whatever. Like there's just like the non-centralized nature of this was also something that sort of appealed to me.
It looks like, according to the New York Post, CBS halts crackdown on Stephen Colbert's Only in Monroe public access show uploads after backlash.
So, okay, thank you for confirming that, because I had only seen it like in a flash across my screen. So they really did make a concerted effort to try to pull this down. Can you
on Friday
imagine
I was
working for this company?
I can't, and I don't know the kind of person that would, honestly. On Friday, I was trying to grab a clip that I was of Colbert, and I told you I was trying to find this part after the first commercial break because I thought it was really lovely, talking about the Joy Machine.
Yeah.
And that didn't exist on the internet anywhere for free. I was going to have to sign up for Paramount Plus to get it.
Right.
And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not signing up for Paramount Plus to get this 2 minutes of tape. So anyway.
Having said that, you should know that we do, for some reason, have Paramount Plus in this house. I say for some reason...
You can't get enough Landman, right?
No, you know what it is, I think? It's because somebody in this house, who isn't me or one of the pets, has an addiction to Star Trek content. And I believe Paramount Plus is your place for
is where that lives.
Yeah.
I see. All right. Well, listen. We did it, Andrew. We did a show
We did
on a holiday.
tight 70-minute show.
That's right. I got to go take some allergy medicine. My eyes are so itchy. I want to scratch them, but I hear that's bad. So
Oh, yeah, don't scratch your eyes.
I'm going to go
unless
take
you
some
have a
allergy
toothbrush.
meds. I don't. So, have you seen these chompers? No toothbrush. My electric toothbrush just straight up broke on me on my last trip. I was
What do
very
you
mad
mean,
about it.
broke?
Well, it was one of those Instagram purchases. I forget what it's called, but it sits in this little case, and supposedly this case is like red light. It's like radiating the thing in a certain way so that the bacteria won't grow, so that your travel toothbrush doesn't get gross. That was how it was pitched to me. I don't know if that ever actually worked, but the head just snapped right off as I was brushing the other day. So I guess I'm done brushing my teeth now.
I guess so.
Yeah. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. We are going to be back here tomorrow with more Imaginary Radio for all of you. And it's not a holiday, so we're going to really try tomorrow. Okay.
Let's do a half-hour show tomorrow.
Just keep them guessing, right? In the meantime, everybody have a great Memorial Day. Have a great Monday. Take care of yourselves. And please remember, no mountain too tall.
And good luck to all.
Power out.